Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's not Spawn year. It's day 62 of my comic review video day calendar. And Jason and I are once again out of town and having to shoot comic reviews on my phone because I wasn't able to get enough of them done before I left. Jason, what is today's Batman book? Because it's Bat March, so it's nothing but Batman through this month. Yeah.
Whoa. We're talking about the Batman Adventures number 13.
We just got up. You might be able to tell. Jason, tell us a little bit about Batman Adventures number 13.
Yeah, this is about, the relationship between Batman and Talia al Ghul.
Yeah.
And how, the relationship is. And... and it's also about, Batman investigating things.
Yeah, what's he investigating?
It's something about, 545 something.
Yeah,
that
but
was a number.
What's the plot that he's investigating?
Oh, he's investigating some, statue thing.
Yeah?
It's, something...
They got stolen from whom?
From, I forgot.
Who's Talia's father?
Oh, Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul, that's right. Okay, so this issue comes out in 1993. I want to do at least one thing based on Batman the Animated Series for this month, and I don't own nearly enough of these, and some of these have become pretty valuable and are kind of hard to get your hands on now. This is one that I just happen to have that I'd never looked at before, so that's why I grabbed this instead of anything else. This one is written by Kelly Puckett, who co-created Cassandra Cain, and also Connor Hawke, Green Arrow's son. And it is written, or drawn, by Mike Parabek, who is best known for his art on this book and his ability to kind of perfectly recreate Bruce Timm's art style. What he does in this book is absolutely magnificent. It's really easy to imagine this as an episode of the animated series, and looks like storyboards that should have just been translated to screen and made an episode. But it's elevated beyond just storyboards. I mean, I'm playing out an episode in my head when I'm reading this, and is that Parabek passed away just 2 years after this issue. And he did a lot of the art for this book up until he died. And I think he would have gone on to be a powerhouse artist at DC. He'd be a name that you'd really know now. But he had diabetes and apparently didn't keep up with his insulin well enough and ended up dying, and super tragic and awful. And I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
I learn a lot through these random issues that I'm reviewing during Not Spawn year. But let's go ahead and just take everybody through the issue here, Jason. This is a real simple one. There's not going to be a ton of review to do here, but we'll just talk about what happens in the issue and tell you what we think of it. So,
yeah,
Jason, why don't you kind of take us through this kind of play-by-play?
Okay, so basically they're cops.
That's what it's called. So it's called Last Tango in Paris.
Oh yeah, because they go in Paris.
Yeah, they go to Paris. Yep.
Yep.
And as Jason said, Batman is investigating this guy that is connected to Ra's al Ghul, and that leads him to Talia, who is, of course, still upset that Batman did not agree to marry her, but still really likes Bruce Wayne and is hoping maybe that'll still come together at some point. So they put together kind of an unlikely alliance in trying to discover who has stolen this, like Jason said, statue that we'll discover later has kind of incriminating evidence on it about Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
I don't know who put the statue together. I don't know if Ra's did it. I was a little bit confused on that point. But basically, the whole thing is a setup so that Batman and Talia can go out on the town together and have kind of a date day in Paris. And so we have sort of a montage like you got in a few Batman Animated Series episodes where they're just, it's wordless panels where they're going around Paris having a good time together. And Jason, one thing I really appreciated about this, getting just a little bit of downtime with Bruce and Talia.
Yeah.
So you get kind of a sense of what he sees in her, and that there really is a rapport there and some romantic chemistry.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I find myself liking this couple in a way I never really did before. Before it was just, well, she's attractive and I guess confident and is a good leader and whatever. But the main reason they seem to be together before is just that's what Ra's al Ghul wants. And I mean, just look at her. Of course, Batman's attracted to her.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be about it. And here I'm actually kind of seeing an argument for what for there being a couple, like what it would be like if they were together.
Yeah.
Which you never really got in the show.
Yeah, and I haven't seen all of TAS, so I don't really, and I haven't seen many of the Talia episodes, so this was kind of one of the first times I was like actually kind of like, I don't know, introduced to that.
I was going to ask you if you were familiar at all with Ra's al Ghul on that show. Do you know who voiced him?
No.
David Warner.
Ah.
Chancellor Gorgon.
Ah, wow.
It was an all-star cast with that show of wonderful character actors, and he doesn't appear at all in this issue. But well, of course, like none of the actors appear because it's a comic book. But I don't know if you had this. Not only is the art spot on, but I had the voices for every character from that show in my head as I read this.
Yeah. And I like the writing.
It doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, it's just like that show in that it's got a lot of levity, but you can certainly take it seriously, and it's for all ages in the best possible sense. It's not a kid's comic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of letters in the back in the letters pages. And one of the better sets of letters page I've read in a while.
Yeah.
You looked at those too.
Yeah.
And there are a couple letters talking about how great this book is at being for adults, for children and adults at the same time.
Yeah.
One thing that's kind of nice in getting this material in comic book form is it's not subject to the same censorship, that the same standards and practices that the cartoon show was. Yeah. So we get, it's not, ultra violent, and I think that sometimes this book does get rougher than the show is allowed to in other issues, but there is a lot more talk about like killing and shooting and the kinds of things that were harder for the show to just outright get away with, where it would kind of hint at those things, and you could assume off screen horrible things the Joker was doing to people, and things like that. But here we just straight away have a bad guy that says, I'm going to shoot you after you're in a room with too much fire for too long. And that whole thing is hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Batman and Talia get captured because, and honestly, I think Batman is a little bit gullible in this moment, Jason, kind of just to have where he finds the guy that's stolen the statue. Batman, by the way, just keeps punching through doors.
Yeah, it's really funny.
He does it here, and then right at the beginning, he punches through a wall or a door.
Or like he kicks down.
He kicks through one, doesn't he? Where is it? Is it on this page? Yeah, there it is. Look, that's Batman's foot. Just right through that wall. But he finds this guy that's stolen the statue, and he goes, and the guy goes, "Oh, it's in there. It's in that door. Batman, that's going to be a trap." I love all this silhouette work, by the way. It's right off the screen. And then, oops, there's a bunch of guns pointed at Batman's head. And then he does the very typical death trap, where he says, I'm going to set this place on fire, and when the fire is too much, you'll run out, and then my men will shoot you, which is a thing I don't think would have ever been said on the show.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Batman figures out a way out. I like this exchange with Batman and Talia. It's very of the time, of course, but I like that we've actually got a little development, like I said earlier, for this relationship. It's not a super important issue or anything, but I wonder how much of the rest of this book I would kind of wish was canonical with the show, because it just, everything about this feels authentic. And it feels like there is a real progression for this relationship, where Talia finally gets to ask Batman something it seems like has been burning, that she's always wanted to ask him, which is, do you actually like me?
Yeah.
Do you find me attractive? Like, did you not? And again, like, very much the sensibilities of the time, but like, is the reason that you decided not to stay with me because you don't like my father's methods, or because you don't find me attractive?
Yeah.
And then Batman kisses her. It's very old school Hollywood.
Yeah.
But neat to see that, and like, that never happens in the show.
Yeah.
And then you get this wonderful bit of levity, and let me just show some of these action panels here, because, again, super authentic, and a lot of kinetic action between the panels. Like, this might sound kind of silly, Jason, but like, you're reading a comic book, but it's so influenced by animation, and that was this guy's style, that you kind of feel like you're seeing animation through it.
Yeah.
There's one bit in particular, right here, where it's almost like you're seeing animated pages being flipped, where like, he's crashing through this window, and then he's a little closer, and he's right there at your face.
Yeah.
Like, that's like animation storyboards.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to fill in and imagine that you're watching a cartoon right now. And I know I use this word too much, but you know, it's also just really dynamic. The color work is really nice, and again, spot on. And then you get this, and this is where I was going. And then you get this wonderful bit where it gets self-aware about the kind of trope that we're doing with this bad guy, where he goes, "Okay, why didn't I just shoot them?
Yeah.
Why didn't I just? Why did I have to?" Have this fiery death trap where they just stay in there until they run out, when I could have just shot them. And then he goes, "Why must I have so much style?" It's wonderful.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Again, not taking itself too seriously. And then look at the panel layouts here.
Yeah.
I
always like when it does that.
It's paced.
Yeah.
And could have been an episode. I'm sorry, Jason, I didn't mean to just take over, but you seemed kind of tired and like you were having a hard time waking up here.
I didn't have much to add.
Yeah, you told me yesterday you read this through and you were like, that was great, I don't know what I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, there's things, but this is also like a shorter comic, so there's not as much to talk about.
Yeah.
And there's not as much like story, it's just...
Do you feel like this kind of thing is too short, where like you read through it and it reads very quickly, and then you feel like you know, if you bought this, would you feel like you didn't get your money's worth? Or is it okay that it's paced that fast?
No, it's okay that it's paced that fast. I just have nothing to say about it.
But you liked it. Would you read more of this book?
Yeah.
This has me wanting to read all of this book.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm missing episodes of the show now. It's that good.
Right.
It's kind of like the Powerpuff Girls comics, where and I've said this before, but where I go, what is Craig McCracken talking about when he says that they got burnt out and he's run out of ideas for stories by the end of that show? When there's all these great comic stories that should have been put on screen and made episodes of that show. And then you get the big payoff line at the end of this, and I'm using TNG episode, Star Trek, We'll Always Have Paris, where I'll just read some of this page down. So she says, so Batman knows that there's got to be more to the statue than just a statue, and he says, you just used me as a patsy in order to help you get this statue. And she explains to him what exactly is in it. She says it's microfilm, because this is 1993, so it's nothing digital, that has damaging information to his father's organization, and that this Leco guy who has too much style, Jason, masterminded the theft. And then he says, you just use me as a patsy. And he's angry with her. And then she says, he says, but if you told me, you wouldn't have had a Patsy. And she says, no, if I told you, we wouldn't have had Paris. It's simultaneously dramatic and also kind of funny. Again, like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and the characters in the piece are playing it straight. And that's very tragic and sad for them. But especially, and like, if you're a kid, you might be buying full into the drama of that. If you're an adult, there's almost a second layer of it where you're like, oh, we're going real, like, 1940s Hollywood with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind
I
of
never really thought about that.
almost like a pastiche of it.
Yeah.
And then the final page is wonderful, where she drops the statue, and then Batman is just standing there posing, and again, you know, real tragic. They're never going to be together. And I think the idea is supposed to be that that despite everything, she trusts Batman enough to leave that there.
Yeah.
Because again, remember, it's got incriminating evidence
Yeah.
on it about Ra's al Ghul, and that is one of Ra's al Ghul's biggest enemies.
Yeah.
And she leaves it there with him.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much she cares about Batman. That's how much she trusts him.
Yeah.
This maybe should have been an episode.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure there's better episodes or better issues of this book, and I'm not the hugest Talia al Ghul fan, but it takes material that I'm not immediately enamored with, and the execution of it is so good that it makes me more invested in it.
Yeah.
You really don't have anything to say about this book, do you?
No. Because I'm just agreeing with all the things that you're saying. And I have nothing to add.
Okay, well, I'm...
Because you have good ideas
Oh,
about, like, what you're saying.
well, thanks. I do this a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I do every day.
Yeah.
Literally every day.
Yeah.
You want to talk about any of the letters?
Oh, there's one that's really funny that's like, stop making this series because it's issue 6. Issue 7 is really good. And then, oh, please stop making this. Issue 8 can't be beat. And then it's like, oh, issue 9 is the best.
And then he crosses out all the ones from earlier.
Yeah.
Where he's like, no, this one really can't be beat. And then I love the intentional arrogance in the response from the editor or whoever's writing these. Geez, and considering that both this issue and the last were even better, what does that make us now? That's great. Well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Jason, I hope you had fun reading this issue and sitting here while I reviewed this comic.
Yeah.
I was going to try to get you to do the whole review, but then it would have been like 2 minutes long.
2 minutes long. It would have been 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have taken very long.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've done this, actually, why don't you do just real quick, because it won't take very long, your version of it. Like how would you have reviewed this if I hadn't said anything? What would your review be?
Well,
because I feel like you haven't gotten the floor enough. So what would your review be?
Oh, okay. Well, this is a comic that has to do with the TAS show, and it came out after that, and it's about
No, it's during it. It's during it.
Oh.
This is 93.
Oh.
The show starts in 92.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's not,
I thought that started in 91.
It's not over yet.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, it's about the relationship between Batman and Talia al Ghul, and I like how that relationship is, and I like how it's all the things that he said.
You can't do that because I wouldn't have been talking.
Oh. Well, I like all the things that... I like how that art is like TAS. And how it's like... It just feels like an episode of TAS.
And that's not an easy art style to replicate.
No, it's not.
As simple as it is, a lot of people have tried to do the Bruce Timm thing, and like they kind of put too much of their own spin and their own flavor on it, which is fine. Like, sometimes that stuff also looks really cool, but if you're trying to be like perfectly authentic to what he did and what those guys did on that show, some people can't manage that. Also, there's a letter where somebody is, because you mentioned when this came out, and I had to tell you the show's not over yet. One of the letters is begging them to bring in new villains and into this book and characters that haven't been done in the show yet. And they mention Bane, and they're like, "Where's Bane? Why haven't we done that yet?" And that episode hasn't aired yet, but it's been made. So the editor responds with, "Well, Bane is coming."
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll be with you tomorrow for a really interesting one that I think Jason will have a little bit more to say about.
Yeah, because it's longer.
After we read it. Anyway, thanks again for watching, folks. We really appreciate it. I was Captain Logan.
And I was me.
And that was Jason. And happy reading. Bye, guys.